So Po-Shen, I don't know if you still remember me, but I met you 2 years ago when you were visiting Iowa City.
Yes.
You remember that trip?
I remember that trip because I remember I traveled around the entire country giving these talks, and I remember somebody asked me to go to Iowa City, and I thought, that's a small population. Well, I'll try it anyway. And I was really impressed. There are a lot of people who are in Iowa City who care about mathematics and education. So I remember that trip very well.
Actually, if I recall correctly, we probably have even more audience when we were meeting outside in Iowa City downtown park over there. It was outside when, pandemic.
That's right.
Like people are still concerned about meeting inside.
Yes, yes.
And we were so excited for you to come.
Oh, thank you. I still remember that park too. It was a nice place. Yeah.
Yes. Also, what really struck me out is that trip, you were introducing the game theory to really young kids. Like first grader to sixth graders, all of them were very engaged into that game, and they finally actually figure out that equilibrium quickly. So I was so impressed with your technique or the way that you were teaching, and to introduce the fun of math to the young kids in such a short time. So you were so amazing math educator when we were, many of us didn't really expect. So some of us, not me, some other friends of mine have never heard you or the AMC competition, all those kind of things, or IMO. But after that, we were really talking about that in our small neighborhood over there.
Oh, good. Well, that makes me really happy.
So with a lot of good memories from Iowa, when I relocated from Iowa to here, I now joined the University of Washington. Today, we were so fortunate to have you join us at University of Washington Bottle campus to not only have a talk to all of us in the public area, to undergraduate student kids, also K-12 students. Like all of the kids got so excited. Anyway, I was so impressed by your math education background, but as well as your passion towards math education. Would you like to talk about what keeps you so energetic in this whole process?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that after I spent 10 years as the national coach of the US math team, it developed a certain way of thinking of the whole country and even the whole world as all these people. I think I should emphasize, I just like people. And so as I traveled from city to city to city, like Iowa City, like Seattle over here, I got to see so many people. And it makes me want to do something that can help many of them succeed. See, a long time ago, I used to actually only think in terms of competition or advancement. But now I actually just think of, we have all these people. Is there a way to help many, many of them survive? And recently, because of the advancement of AI, a lot of my thought is around, oh boy, the entire society is going to change around. The skills that people need are already very different. The most important skill is just like how Math Kangaroo, why I thought your questions were interesting. The first time I ever saw Math Kangaroo questions, I said, these are the most innovative elementary school math contest questions that I've seen in a long time. Because most of the elementary school math contest questions I saw before, just calculate. Just purely calculate. And then I looked at these and I said, wow, there are relatively few numbers sometimes, but very nice concepts. Well, why did I just bring that up? Because now that there's AI, actually the most important skill is just how good are you at solving something where you have to think and figure out a new way to do it. The problem is, I don't see that changing in the state standards anytime soon. When I say changing in the state standards, what I mean by this is, unfortunately, it's not that the teachers don't want to. The teachers, what they teach has to match, I guess, how the tests and how their evaluation goes. And we're going to have to update all of these evaluations. But I don't know how long it's going to take. So at the same time, I see AI getting better and better and better every year, and there's no time. So that's how I got this motivation to say, well, I've seen all these people. I also see potential solutions, so I should do something.
I see. And you were planning a trip every year from January until August, is that correct?
Actually, it's every year, January to December. This August is only because I have not yet figured out exactly how the rest of my fall will feel. The reason is because during the summer, I can go and plan all of this. I go city, 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 city. This is actually just all on my website. But the fall, I usually want to also visit schools. Or for example, here I was just talking, and then somebody who works for a company said that, oh, maybe she would like me to go and give one of the talks, like a tech talk or something at their company, a technical talk at their company. And their company happens to be in the same city where a middle school principal has already indicated they want me to come and speak to the whole middle school. So I said, aha, we should just do those on the same day. So right now, my fall will also get booked. Every Monday I can go somewhere. I'm trying to figure out the most efficient way to fill all the Mondays.
Wow, that's really amazing. Cool. So I believe, you have this passion for math for a long time. Would you like to talk about when you spark your interest at the beginning in your childhood? Is there anyone special in your family who helped you to generate this really great interest? Did you start with so smooth process? You started to love math at the beginning, or something happened?
Well, I think when I was really, really small, my mom taught us math at home. So I went to school, but my mom would teach us extra math. And she was from Singapore, and she used to be a math teacher in Singapore in the 1960s, 1970s. So her 1970s, more like 1970s. And so the style was actually quite traditional. And so I was quite good at doing computation. But then later on in middle school, there was a contest called Math Counts. That actually changed everything. I didn't know about Math Kangaroo at that time. The year was 1993. And so somehow...
We started at 1998, USA.
Well, in that case, then I really didn't... Okay, now I have an excuse. I was going to say, in some sense, I feel bad if I didn't know about it, but now I feel a little bit better. There was no way I could know about it. But 1993, there was Math Counts. And so I thought that was really interesting because these were questions that you could fight your way through. It was not only questions that would see, do you remember this, do you remember this, do you remember this? The experiences I liked the most were whenever I did it my own way. And this is something that stuck with me all throughout. In some sense, I like math, but what I really like is coming up with my own way to do something. And that's why today, all the things I do, like the tour, or like coming to Iowa City, I do it in my own style. I like to do things where it's not following someone else's lead, just do it your own way.
I see. So still, I would like to know, is there anything, you talked about your mom spent a lot of time coaching with you, training your math skills. Is there any memorable experience that you still recall nowadays when you are stuck with a really challenging problem? You still record those things from your memory?
Well, I wouldn't say there was any one particular memory. It's just that it built a certain love for coming up with my own way to do problems. It's just that I think it's not only love, it's a certain level of confidence. So that's why I can't say it's just one particular example. It's that after having experienced in my life, thinking about something, having no idea how to solve, thinking some more, and then eventually, bang, solve. It made it so that if I look at a situation and I don't immediately know what to do, I don't run away. I say, I've been there, I've been here before. I can fight with it for a while. That eventually gave me longer and longer time periods. And then in the high school, I did these math Olympiads. Those are questions that you might think for 2 or 3 hours, one question. Then I went to college. I might think for an entire day to try to go and solve something. Then I went and learned to do some research. Now you might spend a few months. Then I went to grad school. Then you really spend a few months. And then nowadays I work on problems that are world scale. This latest one I work on, I've been working on it for 10 years. But this is all the confidence you build one step at a time from an experience where I don't know what to do, but now I do, and that feels good.
I feel like you are so fortunate to have this confidence building, and that's really happened in your early stage. However, I have to admit, in the whole US generation, I mean here Generation Z, in the US nationwide, Math Kangaroo has been working with multiple kids from different ages. We can sense that parents have been telling us, not those, maybe not really those students coming to Math Kangaroo every year, but a lot of them were afraid of this. So generally speaking, for those kids who were not really fortunate to have the confidence at this moment, do you have any advice or tips for either them or their parents?
Yeah, I would say the biggest advice is actually first to their parents. The parents have a huge influence on this. And for example, our own 4th grader did Math Kangaroo this year. Our own 4th grader likes to do these kinds of hard things, but that's also because the kind of feedback that we give them as parents, we don't only say, oh good, you're quick. We don't even say, oh good, you got so many points. Actually, I don't even know how many points she got on Math Kangaroo. That's not important. What's important is she liked it, right? What I mean is that sometimes the focus is too much on get a good score, and then the kid gets stressed out. We just look at it and say, if you liked the experience and want to do it again, this is good, right? Because if you do it more and more, you will learn something. You will keep challenging yourself. Also, another thing is that in general, the way we give good feedback, the way we get excited, is not when our kids do something quickly or even correctly. We get excited when we see that they've been working on something for a while and kept fighting with it. And even if they got it or they didn't get it, the fact that they fought with it for so long, we get excited and we say something good. This is a different kind of feedback. Sometimes parents just say, hey, how come you're taking so long, right? I'll give an example. So, by the way, I don't teach my own kids. I only teach other people's kids. But my wife teaches our kids.
Let me ask you a question right here. Because in Chinese, like Confucius has said, you don't want to teach your own kid. Is that where you come from?
Well, let's just say that I don't think I would be the best teacher for my own kid. My wife is amazing. But here, let me explain why there's a difference. It's because I actually did all these math contests before. I have expertise. I think it's really bad if the expert tries to teach their own kid.
Oh, yeah.
Because you forgot why it's so hard. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
My wife taught our kids, and that was fine, because she never did a single math contest in her life. Now it's fair. You see, because as she was teaching, she was also trying it. So she knows at the exact same time, wow, this is hard, and it's hard here, it's hard there, it's hard there. That was an extremely good way. I say this because sometimes parents say, I don't have the background, so I cannot teach my kid. I'm not qualified. I go and say, then you should try to do it. If you think your kid can learn it, why can't you? You're 30 years older than they are. If they can learn it, you can learn it too. There's no way it is that only your kid can learn it and you cannot. Anyway, they came out of you, right? So in some sense, if you expect your kid to be able to do something, even if you say to yourself, oh, I wasn't good at this before, oh, come and look at it 30 years later. It could be different. I mean, maybe when you were in, I don't mean you, but when the parent was 10 years old, maybe it was hard. Now the parent is 40. Look at it with a fresh set of eyes. They might find it's quite good. So I think my feeling is, you should not have the expert side of the parent teach the kid. You can have the non-expert. But I will say one more thing. I mean, you said Confucius said don't teach your own kid. There's also a reason why I don't. It's because I know that after a certain age, they won't listen anyway. So teenagers, right? So I know there's only so many things that I can communicate. So I need to be careful because I need to think to myself, what's more important? Making sure that they know the multiplication table or making sure that they know that the way that you be a person is you help people.
Wow, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Because only a percentage of your words will be really listened.
That's right. So I just say there's only two things that I really care about. The rest of it is details. The rest of it are details. But the two things I care about are, number one, the way to be happy is to make other people happy. The more other people you make happy, the happier you feel. Number two, hard work is actually fun. These two. But I thought about this very carefully since I'm a math guy. These two are a very powerful set of principles. Because by the way, they also mean that if you just play video games, you got nothing.
Oh, yeah.
You see, the thing is, if you play video games, how many people you make happy? Maybe one. Your score is only one. On the other hand, if you actually seriously want to make more people delighted, you need skills. You need to study. You need to build these skills, do something, and now life has a meaning. So you see, as a mathematician, like Euclid made Euclidean geometry, right? So it's based on the axioms, based on a few small assumptions, you can deduce a lot of things. So what I said is, I don't think I can expect to have my kids get this. There's lots of different things for me. But if anything, I want these two principles.
Cool. In your talk, you also mentioned that you want to motivate your kids, not just your kids, but generally all the kids, to make the other people be delighted. And just now you also mentioned that video game makes you be happy. I believe there's a distinction between the two concepts. Maybe in their brain, they generate different kind of chemicals to make you either happy or be delighted. Can you elaborate the differences?
This is a good question. I wish we actually had a person that's expert in neuroscience here because I don't know that I can scientifically answer that. But I will say, in the words I chose, I was indeed trying to split between the two. Because in some sense, making you feel satisfied, like eating candy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
if I just go and eat a sugar candy, the mouth feels good. But imagine you were very hungry and you just ate a sugar candy. You don't really feel that good after eating the sugar candy. You kind of feel a little funny. So on the other hand, if you eat a proper meal, you feel actually much, much more satisfied.
Right.
So I think what I was trying to get at when I said this word delighted is, if I'm trying to help someone, I don't just go and think, how do I get you to go away with a smile and, I got rid of you, I don't have to deal with you anymore. I don't think, what's the easiest thing I can do to make you think that you're happy? Instead, if I'm talking to someone, I try to figure out, what's your actual problem? I mean, what's your actual challenge in life? And I try to see if I'm going to spend the time talking to this person, let me see if I can go and help them with it, right? The authentic, deep thing going on. That's why I use this word delighted, because somehow it seems like if someone really, their life has changed in some way, the reaction is different from just the, okay, yes, you gave me $1 or something like that.
Great point. Okay. Also, I think Lucia told me that actually 2 years ago, when you were launching your daily challenge, you reached out to Math Kangaroo. So would you like to share the thoughts with us, like how you started the planning like that?
Yeah. So are you referring to the thing where we reached out to say, hey, let's do some partner,
Right.
let's make
Yeah.
some live solves together?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's because about 2 years ago is when I came up with this crazy idea that we can make math classes online really engaging by combining both high schoolers who are super good at math and professionally trained actors and comedians. This combo actually nowadays has even been reported on by CNN.
Right.
It was reported in March. And when I first came up with it, it was because I myself had been streaming on YouTube live during the pandemic. That was actually one key part of coming up with the idea. It's because when the pandemic struck, I wanted to do something to contribute to education in the world, and so I agreed. I just told everyone, I'll be online 4:00 p.m. every day, Eastern Time. Anyone who wants to join, ask any questions. I called it an AMA, Ask Math Anything. So they could ask anything, I'll go make up a lesson. It was fun. But then I learned what it feels like to be a live streamer. Okay, I learned what it was like to interact with a stream of comments. So these ideas were sort of in my head. And then ultimately, when the pandemic became not something everyone was worrying about quite as much, we realized, we can scale this. It doesn't have to be only me. I can only teach so many people. But we can make a win-win situation. I can make it so that the high schoolers, who are already good at math, build these emotional skills that help them be very, very successful with the rest of life. Actually, when I say very successful, it's crazy. This year, 6 of them got into Harvard. So I don't mean to say Harvard is the only thing. I should emphasize, I myself didn't even go to Harvard, okay? But the point is that we made something for which high school students who were good at math suddenly picked up this other thing to help them be really successful. Boom! Suddenly we had so many high schoolers who wanted to join this program because it changes their life. And then suddenly we had a surplus. We had a surplus of people who can help to coach middle schoolers. And then we wanted more people to know about this because, to be honest, I can come up with these math things and these ideas, but letting lots of people know about them, that was not my specialty. So then what I said is, well, what if we work with Math Kangaroo? We can also create value too. Because I know that people do your contests, and then it would be great if they could also see the solutions. So then that's why we reached out, because I said we have a way that we can provide a value, and then nowadays actually every 3 weeks we do an official live solve collaboration, collaborating with Math Kangaroo USA, where we let people who are interested in the Math Kangaroo problems see how an expert solver solves it on the spot.
Yeah, that's really amazing, for the past almost 2 years,
Yes,
right?
for 2 years, yeah.
Every 3 weeks, every grade, you have
Yes.
like different sets of questions.
Yes.
Watch it, how to solve it on live streaming. And that's not video gaming.
No.
That's a good way of addiction, right?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is, the screen is very addictive. So I looked at that and I said, what is so addictive about it? What if we just go take all those addictive things and we just substitute the content? Instead of some lousy content, let's actually go and teach Math Kangaroo problems.
Yeah, speaking of Math Kangaroo questions, problems, we usually teach our kids to solve it like by 4-step problem solving strategy. Is there any particular special thing that you notice Math Kangaroo questions are so different or distinct from all the other type of competition questions?
The biggest thing I noticed was that the elementary school questions are not just mental math calculation. or calculation. Because I actually myself did some math competitions in elementary school. The questions were very, very plain. Most of them were just calculate something. And in fact, a lot of elementary school students, if you ask them what is a hard math problem, their answer is, it's 3 digits times 3 digits. What I mean is many elementary school students, the hard part is the computation is hard. I love how some of the Math Kangaroo problems, there's not even a number.
Or puzzle sometimes.
It's a puzzle, right? And so that's actually what you should be doing to have an elementary schooler learn how to think. So I will say, I do think that your elementary school questions are extremely unique. When we go to high school and middle school, they're also very good. But at that point, I would say there are many other contests also, in which case Math Kangaroo is a good source of them. But at that point, I would say, really the biggest value is that Math Kangaroo brought everyone in, because there aren't that many other elementary school contests. If I have any elementary schooler, I actually usually tell them, go to Math Kangaroo, and yeah, stay in it and keep doing it in middle school. But we need to have something as the funnel to pull everyone in at the beginning, which is not just calculation. And I don't know any other one for the elementary.
Anyway, I think I became aware of Math Kangaroo because my son, he wants to participate in this game or competition. And I'm wondering, what did you do to your kids? Did you introduce Math Kangaroo to them when they were little?
Well, first we had to hear about Math Kangaroo. And that was because we were reaching out, looking at all of these other contests. And at first, I should say I'd heard of Math Kangaroo, but I hadn't really looked at your problems. And the first time I looked at the problems, I said, oh, these are good. These are good. There's something special here. Well, to introduce, it just so happens that our kids are pretty open-minded when it comes to trying contests. But that's also because there's no pressure to do well. Actually, we also very much like going to in-person contests. Well, where we were, the Math Kangaroo was in person. They went to a location in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Is that how yours is as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, test center or something like that.
I believe we have, after pandemic, we offer both remote centers and in-person centers. But still, most people prefer in-person centers.
Okay, yeah. So they went to the in-person thing. But in general, we always are taking our kids to these in-person math competitions because we see them as opportunities to get to know people. So every time, we do this very regularly. For example, last month, I took my youngest daughter, who's 10 years old. We went to 2 math contests in San Francisco in the same weekend. Actually, I have no idea how she did. It doesn't matter.
And you don't care, right?
I don't care. No. All I care is that there's a big smile when she came out, where she's talking about the people that she met. Right?
Making new friends, making new connections.
That's what it is. Because if you like this stuff, and you like it enough that you want to do it again, you are going to be fine. The problem is if you don't like it and you're forced to do it, you're going to try to quit as soon as you can.
Well, I already hear you mention this word like a lot of times. And this recalls me something that I read previously about developing a good habit. If you want your kids or even yourself to like doing something or change your behavior, you have to change that by like, the feeling of like, the emotional. So I hear that word from your talk. You are trying to get people excited about making connection to the people, making new connections, making new friends, also social, and also helping the other people. All those things basically connect to this thing. You are feeling better about yourself. You are feeling better by doing something good to the other people around you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing. As you know, our Math Kangaroo is currently the world's largest math Olympia and attracts a great number of students all over the world. So I believe many students started to participate in the competition, like from even some of the kids. Like currently, I'm establishing a new center in Anna Thai Elementary School. Many of the students' parents started from kindergarten. They will ask, okay, can my kids participate? When I send a sample question to them, their kids seems like interested and also being able to read. Also started to generate this interest. Maybe they are not ready for the competition this year, but it's more like bring the awareness, like this is available, and then letting them know about this at this moment, and then in the future, they gradually become interested by practicing questions, by participating more and more. So I guess the next question I want to ask is, like Math Kangaroo, and even daily challenge, we are probably targeting at different audience or different age groups. All of us are really helping to aim to make this math more enjoyable, like a more fun activity rather than a scaring activity, right? So how can parents and educators support all those children who may feel a little bit challenged? And I would like you to answer maybe this question to different age groups, parents as well.
I think the main thing is to make sure that the kids aren't anxious about the results. Or rather, make sure the parents are not anxious about the results. If it makes anyone feel better, honestly, your score is not going to change your life. Strong score, weak score, that's not going to change your life. So it's not high stakes. It's an opportunity to go and play and see how you did this time. Another thing that can help is to participate in as many of these contests as you can. High stakes, it can feel high stakes if you only do it once a year and that's the only thing you do. For our kids, they do lots of contests, which is why I make sure that we recommend all kinds of contests to people. Of course, Math Kangaroo is always one of them. It's a big international one, which is the value, right? A lot of the other ones we recommend, there's some local thing here, local thing there. If you go and ask somebody in Poland, they will never have heard of the other ones. If you ask someone in Poland about Math Kangaroo, they'll know about Math Kangaroo. It's an international thing.
Right.
So my point is, if the only thing the person does is the AMC and the Math Kangaroo and the math counts, it can feel very high stakes. There are 3 points in the year. On the other hand, if they're doing all kinds of things, then it's just another contest.
I see. So even losing, I didn't win anything, it doesn't mean anything at all.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't mean, because you have another
because
one
you have
coming.
so many contests.
Yeah, another one, right? And
I
so,
see.
yeah. And you asked about different ages, but honestly, I use the same approach for both ages. Yeah.
And just now you mentioned the AMC, AME, IMO. Those can be intimidating for some people. So, but all of them belong to Math Olympia, right? So do you believe Math Olympia is for everyone, generally speaking?
I believe that, okay, so I'll say this. One of my goals in life is to make it so that someday as many people of the population as possible can do the first question on the AIME in 24 hours.
24 hours.
So my definition of being able to really think about something hard, the AIME question number 1, if you ever look at it, oh, it's hard. It's hard because you won't recognize it in any textbook, but the kind of math you need to use is usually just Algebra 1. Or maybe some basic geometry. No fancy trigonometry, no calculus for sure, and the difficulty purely comes from you have to wrap your head around a complicated way of thinking and figure something out. That actually, to me, is the most important skill for everyone to develop now that there's AI. It doesn't matter whether you're going to be a math person or whether you're going to work in film editing. It doesn't matter what you work on. If you can do that, you have overcome the issue of how do you solve a complicated theoretical and analytical thing yourself. And I think that a lot of people can pick up this skill, and the more that do, the better.
And that's the number one competitive advantage skill that you would recommend to everyone in university, right?
Yeah, because it's just, even when I'm hiring anyone, I hire technical people. I also run a social enterprise.
Yeah.
So I hire technical, I hire non-technical. No matter who I'm hiring, whatever it is, I'm only looking for people who are very comfortable when they face some situation which is very complicated that they've never seen before. And when I think about math, in some sense we're spending a lot of time in school learning how to do very strange, computations, like very many different formulas, but relatively few people learn how to sit down and look at a question which doesn't require advanced thoughts, it doesn't require advanced concepts, but does require clever assembly. And I think that actually is suitable for everyone. Now, is everyone suited to go and try to fight all the way to be the top? No, of course not. But that's because there's so many people in the world. And I would actually even say, it's not clear to me that it's the best choice for everyone to try to fight all the way to the top. Actually, this year, right before this, right at this talk, there was a person who lives in Seattle who came by to say hello. He's a guy who this year declined the spot on the US IMO team.
Wow.
Declined. He was on the team last year. But this summer, he wants to do something else. So what I'm explaining is he could have this year gone to compete one more time to try to win another gold medal at the International Math Olympiad. Instead, he said, he wants to move on and do other things in his life. And he told me what he's doing this summer, which is actually very, very interesting. But what I'm explaining is, it's not necessary for everyone to say, my whole life is all around win competitions, make the most number of gold medals that I can for competition's sake. Actually, it's not true. It's not even healthy.
Yeah, wow, that's really a great tip for a lot of parents, I believe. Because you probably need to have this courage to also listen to your kids' true needs, right? When your kid is telling you that I'm not going to the big competition or the team, I believe not every parent will listen to their kids' opinions.
Yeah, I think that kid.
Wisdom.
Yeah, that kid is about to start college, so I think he makes his own decisions at this point.
I see. So follow up on this math competition thing. From what age do you think students should be engaged? And I think I have my own answer, but I still want to hear your thoughts on this.
As soon as you can try to do one question.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll tell you, our kids started with, again, we didn't completely know about Math Kangaroo that early on for our own kids. But so our youngest daughter was doing the AMC8, I think as a second grader.
Second graders, AMC8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after she came home, it was either second or third grade. I think it was second grade. But so she came home, and my older two kids had also, I think my older kid had just done, it must have been second grade, right? Because my older kid was then in 8th grade, so he had also done it. So then we were having dinner, and then the second grader said, by the way, how do they know which paper is yours? Do they just remember your answers? Okay, by the way, the AMC8, you fill out some bubbles. There's 25 questions, A, B, C, D, E, you select the bubble, okay? And it's scanned in the sheet. And so the second grader said, how will they know which one is yours? And then the other two kids start laughing in a nice way. They're not making fun of her. But then we looked up the exam answer sheet so we could find out what the answer sheet looked like with all the bubbles. And then one of my older kids said, oh, did you fill out the left side of the page? The right side of the page is 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 25, A, B, C, D, E. She filled all those. The left side of the page, and then the second grader said, oh yeah, I didn't know what that was. There were all these columns, A, B, C up to Z. So many columns, A to Z, A to Z, A to Z, A to Z, A to Z.
So she forgot her name.
Yes, that's correct. So you can see that this is our attitude.
Oh, that's interesting.
It doesn't matter as long as you just go and you try, okay? The point is, the thing is to dare to try,
right.
To not mind if you get a relatively low score, at least to go challenge yourself, and then to want to do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You have been on the Olympia team coach for over 10 years.
Only 10 years. I'm done now. I'm done now. So I'm done. So I did 10 years. That's
I see.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of chance to interact with those highly talented in terms of math capabilities, skills, right? Do you believe, is there any kind of key characteristics contribute to their success?
The main thing is that for most of these people who do very well at math competitions all the way to that level, they are really able to think on their own to solve things. Some people ask, oh, is it that these people have a special coach who has showed them all of the best methods, and so when they see a problem, they sort of learn how to do that before. Generally, no. Generally, to get to that level, you just have to be really good at figuring out how to solve something you haven't seen before.
Independently.
And confidently, without relying on someone else showing you the method. I say this because, unfortunately, these days, there are a lot of people who try to increase their scores on contests by looking for someone to systematically, they like the word, a lot of people like the word systematic. They want systematic and they want lots of practice. And then the kids go through this systematic practice and they get short-term increased results. But long-term, they don't do that well anyway. You see, what I mean is, actually I grew up in America, so my Chinese is not very good, but I do know that there's a Chinese idiom of pulling the grass taller. 拔苗助长. Yeah, it's pulling the grass taller, and it doesn't work. The grass looks taller, but you just ripped apart all the roots, right? So I actually see a mistake that many people make, which is that they look at the contest like AMC, or Math Kangaroo, or Math Counts, and they say, I want my kid to have high score on this middle school or elementary school contest. They look at someone else across town, or not across town, in the same school, and they find out, oh, you got the high score because you took a class, and the class showed you what to do. Oh, And then they go take the class too. And then their kid takes this class and they watch as somebody shows them how to do problems. I mean, I know this because we also teach math, right? I run an online school also. And generally speaking, most people like our classes. But occasionally we get some negative feedback. And one particular negative feedback one person once told me was they didn't like the class because they said, you ask the students how to do the problem. Don't ask them how to do a problem, just tell them how to do it. Then they were saying, we prefer the class where you just tell them what to do and you can do twice as many problem types in the same amount of time, more efficient. And they even showed me, they sent to us, they prefer this class instead. So I could see the other classes' YouTube. And I looked at that and I immediately told my team, I said, guys, ignore this person because this is the worst class I've ever seen. Because I was looking at the YouTube and I watched as that sample class, the teaching style. But I'm warning, because a lot of people go for this, I'm warning that the sample teaching style was, the teacher went on screen and said, okay, everyone listen very carefully. I'm going to show you a very common problem type. It involves chickens and rabbits in the same cage. Everyone listen carefully so that if you see the same problem again in the future, you can do it quickly and accurately. I grabbed that quote, I sent it to my team and said, this is exactly wrong. You don't want to learn how to recognize the same pattern so that you don't have to think and just do it quickly and accurately. Actually, and then there was something about 3 minutes later after the teacher had explained how to do it. The teacher said, okay, everyone, now that we've all learned this, let's all practice by competing to see who can do this problem the fastest. And the same kind of problem, different numbers, but they said, now let's make it a contest. See which of you can do this the fastest. I said, both of these are wrong. The correct way to teach is what we're doing, and we're not going to change what we're doing, even if people want the other way, because the other way is wrong. The correct way of teaching is to say, here's something you don't know how to do. Let's brainstorm together. And we want to have you discover that you can solve the problem that you never saw before.
That's basically what you were saying in the talk earlier, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were saying, okay, I, as a teacher, I forgot how to solve a problem. Can you actually make it, help me out here, help me solve the problem?
That's right. I actually think, especially now that we have this whole AI, basically anything which has already been done before and is standard, that's just easy for AI to eat up. The things that humans will still need to do are, gee, how do you do anything here? Gotta think. So basically, when I look at all of these things, like people preparing for all of these exams, my biggest advice is just don't be too rushed, don't be too anxious. It's actually much better to make sure that your kid goes through the experience of learning how to think instead of having somebody else ruin it for them by showing them how to do it. Then they have no chance to learn how to think.
That's a very important thing for not only the students to know, but also for the parents. Because parents, they are ruining their kids' education if they say, oh, I would like to see which test center or which class can give me better immediate results. That's actually going to kill their kids' potential to grow, right?
That's right.
Their ability to develop like independent thinking.
That's right. And that's why what I see is the people who really succeed in the future, they're the ones who don't just early on fill up all of these methods.
Right.
Generally speaking, they're people who have a powerful way of thinking on their own.
I see. Cool. Thank you. And the next question I have for you is more about your multi-role. You are a professor, you are a social entrepreneur, and you are touring around the country to give all different kinds of talks. And I believe you are also innovator, and you are giving new products year by year, as you were explaining the philosophy behind the XP, right? Making it self-sustainable business, but also benefiting all the people around the country. So I guess this is going to be very different way of thinking about future jobs, future career, future business, future needs. Like I teach marketing. Marketing is about understand customers' needs and wants and try to satisfy their needs and wants. So do you have any advice for the future generation when they grow up? Currently, they are going to college. Is there any advice or suggestions that you have for them? Like what is the best major or what is the best thing for you to think about?
The biggest advice I have is that all the jobs you've heard of are the jobs that are most likely to be replaced by AI. Because as I travel around the country, I've seen people who are in the startup world pitching startups to venture capitalists. And the easiest startups to pitch are where you can say, look, I'm going to replace this job category. There are this many people who have this job. They make this much money a year. Let's target this. So what I'm explaining is that's the same thing that causes some people to say when they're to tell to their kids, hey, this is a good job to get. Look, you can make so much money. That's the exact same conversation that the startup company is having with the venture capitalist. Hey, look, let's take this job over. It makes so much money. So the important thing is to be able to think of these things. You mentioned I have this multi-role, but the interesting thing is that I'm really just going after one thing, which is to try to make the world a more thoughtful place. That's really what this is about. I'm trying to do something on civilization scale. Now, how does that work with my university? Well, I have to make sure I still teach. I teach. My teaching load is that in the fall, I teach 5 days a week, so I travel the other 2. In the spring, I teach 3 days a week, so I travel the other 4. And so that's how I'm able to go and mix all these together. Now, I happen to have this other social enterprise I run at the same time, but that also helps the university an enormous amount. I'm all about win-win situations. If I wanted to do something else, I have to think, how does this fulfill all of my duties? Actually, I'm the kind of guy where if someone says, hey, you should do this, I think first, what are we really trying to achieve? Can I come up with something even better? If I can come up with something even better, I'll go do that instead. And then we'll be even more happy, right? And so in some sense, all these things I'm doing, well, right now, even more people are applying to Carnegie Mellon University. It seems to work pretty well, right? I had a guy come to me right after the talk today saying he's going to Carnegie Mellon this year, right? So we're helping to get...
math, right?
And math, yeah, he's going to apply math. Not CS, not CS, he's coming to our department. Yeah, so this is helping the university. And actually, in general, the university, as a university researcher, we're supposed to invent new things. So the things I'm doing, yes, I'm going around and doing education, but also the education I'm doing is very different from just opening some math class. That if I was doing that, I'm not sure the university would be happy. But it turns out that the things I came up with, they're even covered on CNN, or the tour is covered on Wall Street Journal. So I try to make sure that I'm not just, that I'm doing something that's true to the spirit of research. But you can see, I chose to unify the whole thing around something that will help to make this world scale, more thoughtful place. And then everyone wins, so it works.
Very cool, very cool. Another question I have is more for parents who have younger children. How can we actually, as educators, you are teaching in the higher education institutions, how can we prepare the next generation for the future by engaging them more in the logical and the math exercises?
That's where I think that your elementary school questions are actually really good. I actually really do encourage, anytime I meet these anytime I meet these elementary school parents, when they say, hey, where can I find something to do? I tell them, don't just do arithmetic practice. I will say there are some companies where the only thing the company does is give you a page of arithmetic problems. I tell them, actually, that's not useful.
Right.
The thing that's much better is you need to find these logical challenges. And as far as I can see, Math Kangaroo is actually a great source. And there are all these old problems too. So generally speaking, I say this is a good source. Now, of course, it would be useful to discuss them with your kids. I will say that probably almost all parents, if you think about it, you can solve those questions too. You don't have to be a mathematician. Yeah. Because if there's a problem designed for a second grader, you can do it, right? Is there a level 1 to 2?
We have
or is it 3 to 4?
Level 1 to 2 is always like every 2 level. You
have 1 to 2, exactly. So the level 1 to 2, those are great logic problems. I actually really think these are good things to do. And it helps to let people know, that's why I'm letting people know, but it helps to let people know you don't have to just go and build the foundation first. Sometimes parents think my kid has to be very good at arithmetic before I can go forward.
Right.
I don't think so. I think actually there are really interesting questions where the only addition and subtraction you have to do are with very small one-digit numbers. But the hard part is which ones did you add and which ones did you subtract? Whereas sometimes the parents get really filled up with 2-digit arithmetic before you start doing logical problems. So it's good to start doing logical things. There's also something where when we talk about our life, it is useful to talk out loud and let your kids understand how you're making decisions about the world, observations you're making about the world. If I'm driving and I notice something about the way the cars are merging, I might just say it out loud. I guess when I'm driving around, I do think about these things. I'm like, oh, that's why that worked. Oh, that's why that didn't work.
Do you explain that to your kids?
Yeah, I'll just say it. I'll just say it. I mean, for example, I was driving around. I'll just give a simple example. This is for an elementary school kid. So I was driving around on the East Coast and also on the West Coast. And as we were driving on the East Coast, we were going on 95. I-95 runs along from Boston to New York and all the way down to Florida. And then we were also on the West Coast, right? West Coast, there's the 5.
Yeah.
And then I just started to say, hey, do you know how the freeways are numbered in the U.S.? It's actually an interesting puzzle, right? It's like, okay, there's 95 on the east, there's a 5 on the west. As I'm driving, we're talking about this, and the 10 goes. I said the 10, 10. The 10 touches Los Angeles. The 10 touches
Florida.
The 10 touches Texas.
Yep.
I was trying to see, I didn't tell I didn't tell her it's 10 goes across and then 20 goes across, right? But it's just about talking. Yeah, we wanted to have a discussion. We want to have a discussion to see if you can come up with, the connection between Washington State and then Minnesota, and then that's the 90, right? That's how that one goes across. But I'm just explaining, it's like I was driving, I noticed the freeway number, we just start talking about that. It doesn't have to be purely an arithmetic problem. It's just about logic. And then after it took a little bit also for her to figure out that the odd ones are north-south and the even ones are east-west. But odd, even numbers. That's odd and even numbers.
So after hearing your sharing, I feel like you are basically implementing. Life is a lesson, or lessons everywhere in your daily life. You can really ask your kid to learn by engaging in an in-depth discussion with you, while you were driving, like a road trip or something like this. It's totally different than, okay, if I want to develop my kids to be a good thinking or good mathematician in the future, then I need to send him or her to some schools. It's never equal that way, right? It's great to hear that's how you are actually executing it in your daily life. And hopefully our audience will be also learning that from you. Thank you. So we talked about younger kids. How about middle schoolers and high schoolers? I know many of them, if they are very into math competitions, they already self-select into those more premium competitions, more competitive ones. But for the other people, what do you think about, let's say, for those teachers in the regular classroom? Do you have any advices for them?
I think that a huge number of people would benefit from doing the middle school math competitions.
Math counts? AMC?
It could be just that entire flavor of questions, and yours as well, Math Kangaroo as well. This entire flavor of questions which only uses some concepts from algebra, some geometry, something called combinatorics. If I have 3 kinds of hats and 2 kinds of pants, how many different outfits of different hats and pants is a 3 times 2, right? These kinds of ideas. So I think that actually everyone can benefit from learning these things. When I say everyone, of course, you do need to be doing okay in normal school math already. If you're still having difficulty with the school math, solve that first, and then maybe you'll be a high schooler and then do this. What I just said is everyone, though, would benefit from this. Whether it is that you do it in middle school or whether you do it when you're 30. Actually, the important thing is, nowadays, you can keep learning forever because there's the internet. And anyway, when you meet adults, we don't know how old everyone is anyway. It might be within 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. But if you think about it, then why should you go compare people just based on them versus other people within 12 months of them at age 18 defines how good are you in the world, right? That doesn't make sense. If people can learn more things later, you can use a different order of learning. So that's why I said it is suitable for everyone to become good at this. Actually, my wife learned a lot of these things after she graduated from college because she was teaching our kids. Right? She didn't do this stuff before, but she learned it. It was very useful. It makes you able to think more clearly. Okay? Now, the way to learn that, of course, is to go and actually think about those middle school math competition questions. That's actually why we run this online school. That's entirely what we teach. So my philosophy is actually everyone should do that. If you're already in middle school and you're already getting an A in the class, I would even further recommend you should really do it right now. The reason you should really do it right now is because that means you're already ready to challenge yourself. And this applies to a large number of people in America already. Basically, everyone getting an A in middle school math, it would be very advisable to get into this now. And the only reason that some people don't do it, not the only reason, but like one of the reasons why some people don't do it is because they say, well, I'm not going to win. But who cares? You still need the skill. It's just like saying, it's as if somebody said, well, I'm not going to be the top student in school, so I just won't learn math. That's ridiculous. You need to learn the math because it will help you as a basic foundation. But this particular middle school math competition stuff, wow, that can be the foundation of critical thinking. That's the thing that we need when the AI is gone. When the AI is here, sorry, then the other jobs are gone. For the high school, that's a different story. The high school, I would say, that one, not everyone has to do.
Because
Honestly,
you're busy?
well, because life is more complicated. Not everyone needs to learn how to do interesting trigonometry problems.
Right.
Everyone does need to learn how to problem solve. See, to me, the language of the middle school math contest teaches you this way of thinking. Like when I gave the talk about all the different things I work on, that's a framework of thinking.
Right.
That framework of thinking is useful. When you go into high school, it can get more specialized. People can start thinking about very abstruse, very strange geometry things that involve triangles and drawing all kinds of lines in the triangles. And okay, it's cool. And if you want to do it, good for you. But I wouldn't go and say, everyone in the world, you have to do this, right? So at that point, to me, I found that the high school people learn the best when they have a community of other high school people, and they just go and learn together.
So you mentioned different kind of competitions for both the middle schoolers and high schoolers, but in particular to Math Kangaroo, do you have any advice for us, as like Lucia and I are state co-directors? We are trying to promote more people getting involved. Do you have any tips for those center managers like that?
Oh, that's interesting. I think that it's useful to have a healthy philosophy of, if there's a contest to challenge yourself, which is high quality problems, go do it. So it's good that you have so many elementary school students. It would be good if they have a habit of continuing to join as middle and high school students. We are, of course, trying to help promote that, not only for you guys, but for everyone, because we think that it's healthy to say, if there's a well-organized, good set of questions, go ahead and participate. Yes, there's an entry fee, but nothing in life is free anyway. So I think it's very reasonable. As far as I understand, you guys are a non-profit, so it costs money to do things, so okay. And so I would recommend that people continue to do this, not only in elementary school.
I see. And you mentioned the habit, so kind of like we need to cultivate this habit in terms of this business, math education business, right?
Yeah, well, I think the way I think of it is, I think it's healthy to always be trying to have these ongoing challenges all throughout the year. You guys supply one that's in March every year.
Right.
It's valuable. There's the AMC. The AMC 8 supplies a contest, which is in January every year. Math Counts supplies a contest, which is in February every year. So you're the March.
Equally split
Yeah,
out. Okay.
It's good.
Cool. One last question. I think overall we are talking about education. Education is about making people change their behavior, change their lives. So to achieve whatever goals, I believe developing effective learning habits is going to be critical for their success, especially like how to cultivate or develop a good habit as a learning habit. Do you have any tips or advice for this?
So I was just talking to a person after the end of the talk, and they asked about any tips on learning. Actually, they were asking for tips on learning math or AI, and they said, can you just give just a few words, like 3 or 4 words? And I said, understand why it works. Understand why it works. It's not okay just to do something. It's actually important to really have a good feeling for, oh, this tool works because of whatever. And the tool doesn't have to be a math tool. The tool could even be a physical tool. Actually, anything in the world that I use, I like to understand. I'll just give an example. So at some point, this is just something that just happened recently. I was driving in a car with somebody who's working with me, and when I came back into the car, the rearview mirror had moved. Okay, and then to me, it's like, I wanted to know why, because
while you were driving?
No, it was when I came back into the car. The rearview mirror had moved, and of course I can just move it back. But there's a little bit of me that was like, mirrors don't move by themselves. There are no ghosts. At least I don't think they're ghosts. But so it shouldn't do that. So there must be some reason. Why was that? And then finally I connected it. Oh, right. It's because, I remember now. It's because we parked and it was too close to the side wall. The curb was very high. So she had climbed out through my side. Right? I came out first and then she came out. Must have bumped the mirror. Then it was okay. I understand. But I'm just explaining, even something as trivial as that.
Right.
It is not satisfactory for me to say, oh, I don't know, just moved. I have to explain to myself, exactly when did that happen? Because it doesn't move by itself.
So basically, whenever you have a curiosity, you want to solve that. what's going on? Why that happened? I want to find an answer for that.
Yeah.
No matter how trivial it is.
Yeah, no matter how trivial. I want to know what's going on. Like, how does this world work? If there is something which does not match my previous understanding, what happened? And once I have an explanation and a story, I say, okay, I know exactly what happened. Now I'm satisfied. But that's a simple thing to explain just as we're having this conversation. When you're doing math, well, actually, that's also simple to explain. Some theorem. Why is it true? Not just because it's true. Get to the bottom. And one way I learned how to do that was by explaining to other people. See, actually, when I was in school, I explained lots of things to other people. I didn't even do it for community service hours. I never even counted any of them as community service hours. I didn't get paid. It was just fun. But that's also because explaining something to someone else is, in some sense, making sure I can explain it to myself, right? But a lot of times people with the learning habits will just be drowning in too many classes. Right. Just, come on, how do you do this problem? Just like this. Just do it. And then they don't even know why. And at some point later, it's just, it's all big mess. It would be as if you were trying to learn a language like Chinese. That's the best example. Imagine trying to learn a language like Chinese with no characters. So you know what I mean? It's like there's a language in Chinese. There's like the characters. You could say a sound, but any sound there could be like 20 characters underneath that are the same sound. Actually, even better. Imagine learning Chinese with no characters and no tones.
No tones.
Which some people do. Some people do, right? Try to learn. It's complete nonsense. So I'm just explaining. If you don't understand the thing that's underneath, you're hopeless. But then I just gave that example because it's easy for people to appreciate sometimes, if you tried learning that language, that particular language, very easy to appreciate how, well, that's stupid, that won't work. And at the same time, unfortunately, a lot of people use the same thing to learn math or learn physics or learn engineering. It's just, I don't know, I go through the motions. Seems roughly correct. I hope they don't build a bridge.
Oh, yeah. Right. Wow, so it's really amazing to hear you talk about so many different things. And I can tell you are so passionate, knowledgeable, so innovative. You always have this curiosity. It's like very up, it's kind of like you are so positive. Is there anything that you experienced in the past, like failure? How did you get over it? It's kind of, okay, I have something that I need to solve. Is it always the case that you solve everything?
Oh, no. I mean, there are lots of things that didn't work. I'll give one very clear example. During the pandemic, I actually invented a new way to fight pandemics. That's another entire talk. If people look it up, if you search for my name and pandemics, they'll find it.
I think last time you shared the app.
Yeah. It was an app. It was an app. It was an idea of an app to control pandemics using game theory and self-interest. That's the important thing. Very different from all the other apps. It uses game theory to align incentives. Okay, and we were doing this. We had a team. It was one of the best teams I had ever gotten the chance to work with. Because at the beginning of the pandemic, I said, I have an idea. Does anyone want to help save the world? Wow, some of the most incredible people came. But unfortunately, around March of 2021, we ran out of funding. We were trying to do something that would not only save the world from COVID, but we wanted to go and keep doing research on this and make it so that in the future, when there is a disease that is just as transmissible as COVID, but more lethal, we can save the country and save the world. Unfortunately, March 2021, all of the funders didn't want to keep funding. Actually, we had the funder tell us that they don't fund anything anymore on pandemics unless it's on vaccine distribution. Because the vaccine had been invented and the success rate was like, efficacy was like 95%. And one of the funders actually told me, they said, we don't need to fund anything else because once everyone gets 2 shots of this vaccine, the whole pandemic is over forever. Well, oops, that's not true. But unfortunately, that pulled the plug on a lot of these non-pharmaceutical inventions. So it was actually quite a sad time because unfortunately, we had to let go that team. It was one of the best teams I ever worked with. Fortunately, at the very beginning, we all knew that this would stop whenever we ran out of funding. But I'm just explaining such things happen. So then I had to rethink, what am I going to do with my life? Because I had just dedicated a year and a half all into this pandemic thing. We had built up the momentum. Actually, we came up with something that we even patent. The patent just got granted. It takes 2 years to evaluate patent. It just got granted last month. So we really invented something. And this was something that we could go and use to go and help to save country from future pandemics. And so, okay, now I have to have what's next? And around that time, that was like summer of 2021, April, May 2021, I was just thinking, what should I do? And around that time, I happened to be asked to go and film some math thing in New York. And when I went there, I saw, the vaccine is here and everyone's going around again. I wonder if I can go and give talks again. This is how that thing started.
Yeah.
So I said, it looks like people are willing to go outside, but I don't want to give talks and have giant super spreader events, because that would be very ironic that you invent a way to stop pandemics and hold super spreader events. And then I said, oh, I can hold talks outdoors in parks. When I said this, a lot of people told me you are crazy. It's going to be impossible. How can you bring an AV system, a sound system, all around as one person, all around the entire country giving talks in parks? Will anyone show up? I said, okay, then I'm going to do it. That's just my style, okay? And that's how we met in Iowa City, because it actually worked. But because I did this whole tour, that summer, I met probably about 3,000 people, and I got to understand better pain points in education. By October of that year, we came up with this idea on live teaching. So I'm just explaining like one thing came to another, right? If I had not lost all the funding, not all, but if we had not lost most of the funding for developing pandemics, today I would not be talking to you here. We would be working on pandemic control, which is actually also a good thing. But unfortunately, okay, it didn't work out. I was actually quite sad. We had put all of this in, but you know, we're not going to go cry. We get up again. Let's solve another disease, the disease of people not knowing how to think, right? So that's just one example. But I mean, people have said before, the successful people are not the ones who win all the time. They're just the ones who get up again.
Well, I guess that's the perfect ending for our interview today. Thank you so much. Math Kangaroo really appreciates your time. Hopefully next year we can invite you back to Seattle again. We can make it even better. And we are so fortunate to have you, have the time to talk with you, to hear your thoughts on education, on AI, on business, math and jobs and business, everything else. Thank you so much. The last thing is, this is from Math Kangaroo. I believe this is going to be the top winners prizes this year, and I hope this can be going with you when you go around the country and go back to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I like how it's a little one. Okay. I like it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.